Last time we left them, America's newest soldiers had been recruited over ale, drilled on the docks, and unleashed upon the decks of a restless fleet. They wore green instead of blue, carried muskets instead of manners, and answered to no one but Congress itself. Now the Marine story shifts to the Caribbean. It is March 1776. The Caribbean sun is brutal as the Continental Fleet creeps toward the Bahamas. On the deck of the flagship Alfred, men wipe sweat from their faces, green coats sticking to their backs, muskets glint, and powder barrels sit ready. This isn't a trade voyage. It's a crime in progress, one planned by Congress itself, and the target, gunpowder. Back in Boston, Washington's army is starving for ammunition. They have muskets, they have courage. What they don't have is powder. You can't fight an empire with empty powder barrels. Enter Essex Hopkins, a seasoned Rhode Island seaman with a bold streak and a bad temper. Congress names him the first commander-in-chief of the Continental Navy and hands him a nearly impossible order: sail south, strike the British where it hurts, and bring back supplies. Hopkins studies his maps, eyes narrowing on one tiny British outpost, New Providence Island in the Bahamas. The rumor is that 200 barrels of powder sit in its forts practically undefended. He smiles, we'll take it. And aboard his flagship, 200 Marines under Captain Samuel Nichols prepare to make history. In February 1776, the small ragtag fleet leaves icy Philadelphia. Masts creak, ropes snap, sails bloom like wings. The men are half-trained, seasick, and dangerously optimistic. Their orders are vague. Their goal is clear: steal Britain's gunpowder before Britain steals the revolution. They pass Cape Fear, cut through the Caribbean winds, and after weeks at sea, hungry, exhausted, and blistered, they finally sight the green outline of New Providence on the horizon. This isn't just any mission. This is the first amphibious assault in American history. On March 3rd, Hopkins calls his officers together. They lean over a crude map. 2 forts guard Nassau's harbor: Fort Montague to the east, Fort Nassau near town. The plan is to land Marines before dawn, seize the powder, and sail home before the British can blink. Nicholas nods, "We'll go ashore at first light." He and his Marines load into the longboats, green coats against the gold water, muskets upright like oars. The air smells of salt and gun oil. Above them, gulls scream. But on the island, the British governor, Montfort Brown, isn't sleeping. Word of the American fleet has already reached shore, so he orders the powder moved inland. By the time the Marines reach the beaches at dawn, half the prize is gone. The theft has already been stolen from them. But still Nicholas gives the order to advance. Sand churns under heavy boots. The Marines push forward through thorn and heat, green coats darkening with sweat. British cannon flash from the walls, but most shots go wide. When the Americans storm the gate, the defenders break and run. The fort, it's theirs. Inside they find empty powder magazines, scraps of paper, just a few barrels a shot, and the bitter taste of being outplayed. But Marines don't quit. Nicholas reorganizes, and they march west toward Fort Nassau. On March 4th, under the glare of a merciless sky, the Continental Marines enter Nassau. Civilians watch from shuttered windows. Nicholas keeps his men in line: no looting, no drunkenness, no revenge. They may have been born in taverns, but here they're going to act like professionals. The Union Jack falls, the new American flag, 13 stripes and a field of pine, rises in its place. Inside Fort Nassau, they find what the British left behind: 88 cannon, 15 mortars, a haul of shot and other supplies. No powder, but plenty of victory. For a corps that had existed less than 4 months, it is a staggering debut. No one could have predicted it, least of all the British. A few men are wounded, but none killed. A handful of defenders are captured. The first amphibious raid in U.S. history ends not in slaughter, but in success. Nicholas enforces discipline so strictly that even the British governor is impressed. Civilians are treated with respect. Property is returned, prisoners are fed, and when Brown finally surrenders, Nicholas lets him sail home. If this was war, it was war with manners. The kind that makes enemies whisper, "Who are these men?" By March 17th, the Marines and sailors haul their captured guns aboard ship. The voyage home is rough. Storms, disease, exhaustion, but spirits are high. They have proven the Corps can fight, march, and command respect. Hopkins, however, has made enemies of his own. Congress expected him to strike British targets on the mainland. Instead, he went island hunting. When he returns to Philadelphia, he's censured and eventually suspended. Nicholas and his Marines escape the politics. History remembers their courage, not Congress's scolding. The war drags on. The Marines serve aboard ships and in coastal raids. They fight in skirmishes from the Carolinas to Nova Scotia. But when the Revolution ends in 1783, the new nation is broke. The Continental Navy is disbanded. The Marines, without ships, without pay, without a mission, they vanish too. One historian wrote, "They died as they were born, quietly and without ceremony." It should have been the end, but America is nothing if not forgetful in one decade and fearful in the next. In 1798, a new threat rises, the quasi-war with France. French privateers raid American ships, merchants panic, and Congress scrambles. And someone in that hall remembers the Tavern men, the Marines who stormed the Bahamas, kept discipline at sea, and disappeared without complaint. So Congress writes a new resolution. The Marine Corps is reborn. Same name, same mission, same attitude. From the ashes of disbandment, they march back into existence, tougher, leaner, and just as fond of proving everyone wrong. Now, Samuel Nichols doesn't get to live to see it. He died in 1790, likely of yellow fever, buried in an unmarked Quaker grave. No statue, no parade, just a quiet patch of earth for the man who founded America's loudest legacy. But every Marine who has ever stepped off a ship carries his contradiction. A peace-loving man who created warriors. A Quaker who made fighters of legends. If the first part of this tale was about creation, and the second about control, this one is about persistence. The Corps' ability to die and resurrect itself, like some military phoenix. Born in a tavern, they stormed their first beach before the ink even dried on their commissions. They vanished once, only to come back meaner. The green coats are gone, the leather caps replaced by the white covers of modern dress blues, the muskets by rifles and the wooden decks by steel, but the DNA is still the same, forged from rum, rebellion, and the refusal to quit. And that is why their birthday feels less like a ceremony and maybe a little more like a confession. Every Marine knows the truth. They were born out of shortage, desperation, and sheer audacity. They were raised on discipline and disrespect in equal measure. And somehow, that cocktail worked perfectly. Happy birthday, Marines.